And we are live once again. It is very strange for us to be live on a Wednesday, let alone midday and then again at night. But a few things we have to address. Number one, earlier in the day we had Steve Golub come on. Now, Steve reached out to me and he asked to come on the podcast because he wanted to call out Paul Italia and Nanya. So I let him on, and things escalated very quickly to a point where, once again, we had full frontal nudity. And, Nanya came on, Andrew Wood. Now, Andrew Wood is he's going too far with the racist stuff, and because he's going into the AWU chat and saying certain things over and over, lots of people are seeing that in the community and not liking what he's saying. And then he comes on our show and now we're getting backlash from it. So, Andrew Wood, I mean, with that behavior and the way you're talking in there, like, everybody knows that AWU, they invite tons of people into that chat. Now, a lot of them leave, but a lot of them are seeing Andrew Wood in there saying, N-word over and over and over and over and saying some crazy stuff. And then, I left that chat a few days ago, so I missed a lot of the stuff, but I don't know if he's doing it for attention or what it is. Calling Italia the N-word, like, when he's, just talking to him in there. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird situation that I wish we weren't in, but Wood is going way too far with the language and the racism and the
anti-Semitism.
Yeah, and anti-Semitism. Unfortunately, like, we just can't let him on the show anymore, which, not saying that he's banned forever or whatever, but until he figures out what the fuck is going on with this language and going that far and stuff, I think we can't have him on here with that stuff. And then, the stuff with Paul and Steve, I mean, that's just crazy too. Like, I'm just going to say, people out there go through different things, and, mental health plays an issue and stuff. But, when it goes too far, and that's on me. Like, when things go too far, like, we should just shut down the podcast or something, or remove people or do something. It got to a point where it was a full-on nudity. There were death threats. There were threats of arson. There were people telling each other to kill each other. It got crazy earlier today. So I don't know, man. We can't, the 98 FTG night has always been fun, and then late night has always been a little crazier than earlier in the night. Starts out with arm wrestling, and then, once you talk about everything, it turns into a little bit crazier situation late at night. But everyone knows that that's kind of what happens late at night. So, but I think it's just progressively gotten out of hand, and we probably got to scale things back a little, because with everything else we got going on, and we're trying to start this United North American Arm Wrestling group and stuff, and we have some big things in the works. Like, that's going to hinder us in moving forward in the future, and we can't let it get so crazy that, there was probably like 9 or 10 crimes committed on the podcast earlier. And that whole podcast could be used in a fucking court proceeding as fucking, evidence. So we can't let it get to that point where we could all be subpoenaed to court and have to submit fucking podcast footage. But yeah, so we wanted to just come on and address some of that. Holy Christ, what a day. What are your thoughts, Shell?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm most annoyed, disgusted, or saddened, because what we're trying to build here, and what people don't know, is the amount of time you put into this, with basically, especially now that you're on, workers' comp for a while. I mean, this is basically your full time job, and and quite frankly, it's damn close to that for me as well. But I'm retired, and the what kind of disturbed me today, well, two things. First, the nutsiness, uh, first place, but secondly, when a post was put up about this, which seemed to suggest that we had uh, deliberately provided a platform for Andrew Wood to be an idiot, which we did not. Certainly did not expect that to happen.
I didn't even think he'd come on midday.
Yeah, I mean, now as far as the two, I have to draw a distinction here between Andrew Wood and Steve Golub. Steve Golub, and if Steve finds about this, he probably won't particularly care for me saying this, but Steve has some problems at the moment, medical problems, and apparently he's had them in the past. And this has been going on. It's getting worse, but it's been going on for some time. And his friends have noticed it. And I mean, I've known Steve for, I'd say a good 5 years, and he's a very good puller, and I got along with him fine. And he was very, to use the word normal. What's normal? I don't know, but he did not act like a maniac. And a couple months ago, he started acting and posting things that were a bit odd. I think that's a fair way of putting it, and worried me sufficiently that I went down to visit him in Maryland. Normally, it's about a little over a 3-hour trip. In this particular case, it's 4 hours because some fool closed Interstate 83, but it's neither here nor there. But the point is, I drove 4 hours to basically because I was afraid he was going to hurt himself, commit suicide. Be quite blunt. I told him I thought he was going to off himself, and went down and visited him. And he was somewhat manic at the time. If you think of whoever you can think of that's a very intense arm wrestler that's bouncing off the walls, whatever, and double it. That was Steve that day. And but I came away convinced he was not going to harm himself, but there was obviously something, there's he has problems. And so, like I say, this has gotten far worse. And so I suppose what I'm saying is, even though many of the things he said today were outrageous, I hate to use the word inexcusable because he basically has the basic the word or the phrase that people usually use. He's off his meds. Well, and to be honest with you, I think he is off his meds. Now I'm drawing a contrast between that and Andrew Wood. Andrew Wood, I don't know if Andrew Wood's on any meds at all, but certainly what Andrew was saying today and what Andrew has said in the chat, and I might add, Lord knows what he said in the last 6 hours because I was at practice this evening. I haven't had the opportunity to go back and look at the AW chat, but he does not have that excuse, if indeed that's an excuse. And so, even though really Steve was, somewhat wilder than Andrew was today, Andrew, I'm sorry, it was inexcusable. And Andrew, I think you would agree with me, Ryan. Andrew is done with being on our podcast. Period. Case closed.
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah. I mean, he is not
I
going to.
mean, the other thing too is he was kind of attacking Italia for no reason today, saying that Italia like fixes matches and does all this stuff. And I mean, I wasn't even really paying attention to what he was saying, but the stuff he was saying is just not true. Like Paul Italia does not fix matches. I mean, Paul tries to put on good matches and throws money at him sometimes, but I've never witnessed or heard of him trying to fix any match or do any weird stuff like that. And then Wood started talking about the Palmer match and saying that everybody there was bullying him and it was unsafe. Only him and Cole had words back and forth because of their argument with each other, their banter that was at each other. And the rest of the people there actually were telling Cole to calm down. So I don't think it was an unsafe situation for Palmer, but Wood is perpetuating that. And I think that's not good to do that. And, it's a big news situation.
Yeah, I'm sort of been paying half attention, not while I was talking, but paying half attention to the comments in the chat. And Meta has had some some very good ones. And the one that I will put up here is okay, it moved, so I got the wrong one here, but still
exactly Meta.
But basically seems more premeditated, unlike Golub. And I would say that's absolutely true. I mean, Golub was off the wall, but once again, he's going. I think I can honestly tell this because he's mentioned as well. He had lived in the Baltimore area with his mother. They got into a disagreement, and basically she kicked him out of the house. So he is now living in a tent in West Virginia with another puller who I will not name here, and we are attempting to been attempting to contact his mother to say, hey, see if she wants to know what's going on. I don't even know if she knows what's going on. And we've been unsuccessful. And I say we, meaning Paul Italia and myself so far, and basically get hung up on. And I even went to the point yesterday of sending her a written note by U.S. mail saying, hey, I tried to get a hold of you. This is, what we're trying to do. If you are interested in talking to me, here's my phone number. And I even told her, I said, hey, and if it makes any difference in your decision, I'm 73 years old. And you think, okay, why the hell does that have anything to do with it? Well, I just want her to know that we're not, she's not talking to somebody that's, fresh out of high school and is, somewhat wacky. I'm 73 and I'm somewhat wacky, but she's 75. So basically, I thought that sending her a handwritten note in script by U.S. mail, which is certainly odd enough these days, might catch her attention. So we're really trying to do something there. So can I say that Steve will never be on our podcast again? No. If he recovers and whatever. I mean, like I say, this came really as a big surprise to me, and I think to a number of people that not only the way he's acting now, but apparently he has had episodes in the past and has a fairly extensive rap sheet. Most of which are not crimes of violence, but were some years ago.
And another problem is this. I don't think Steve would ever act on any of the threats he made, just from knowing him for a few years here and in talking to him. I talked to him for like 2 hours today, trying to see where his head's at, trying to tell him, maybe he should turn himself in. But the problem is when you make threats, death threats public, not everybody knows Steve, and people might take those serious. And, what if something were to happen and he talked about it premeditated on the 98 podcast and then went and did something or something happened? I mean, that could be some serious trouble for a lot of people that were here talking about it, and we're all, thinking it's a joke, but you never know what could happen. I mean, something could trigger him to actually follow through with some threats, or, who knows? Who knows what could happen, or someone pushes his buttons and, or vice versa. Someone could hurt him because of him making threats. So yeah, I feel like we had to address this situation. It is what it is. Some people thought that we had Steve on for clicks, but honestly, Steve reached out to me and asked me to come on to call out Italia and Nanya. I assumed the way he asked that it was for arm wrestling or to call them out on some of the stuff they said to him the night before or whatever. He wanted to call them out. He was upset. I did not think it was going to turn into cock and balls and taint and buttholes naked on the podcast once again, but it did. And unfortunately, I could not stop laughing when that happened. But
Well, and what and then the question
just
is,
lost it.
what does he want to call things out for? Basically, with Paul, I'm not even sure, to be honest with Wood. With Paul, possibly some of Wood's remarks on the chat, I would presume. With Paul, I've talked to Steve several times on his usual method of communication with me is his video messenger. And so I talked to him several times on Saturday when I was going to and from the arm wrestling party picnic that I had over in New Jersey. And he basically is upset that he feels that that Paul Italia has been making disparaging remarks about gay people. We are not, quite frankly, we don't recall that he has been. But that's his beef with Paul. I could add, in fact, that, like I say, I've had a decent relationship, confidences with Steve when he's not, off the wall. Steve talked to me about a week ago and basically told me about his, shall we say, sexual orientation, I guess is the phrase, which is, to be quite blunt, bisexual.
He said he's just a little bit gay.
Well, yeah, he's both. I mean, he's had apparently a fair number of women as well. And basically asked me not to say anything. And I assured him that I would not, which I did not. And then he got on the podcast on Friday night and basically started blurting it all out that, about his, sexual history, so to speak. And which, surprised me. So I feel I'm somewhat released from, that I didn't promise not to say anything because hell, he said anything. I'm not saying any more than he did. But yeah, oh, God help us. I'll tell you, and what irritates me as well, say we're trying to do several things for the sport. One thing that I should be doing this week is I'm overdue on another one of my Getting Around with Professor videos as to upcoming events. I've had the list made up, I just haven't been able to make the video, and I should be doing that. Number one. Number two, as Ryan noted, we're trying to get this roundtable coalition, as you were, together that we can, basically, plan some activities for the future. And all of the stuff that we should be doing, essentially, we don't have time to do because we're dealing with this nonsense. And so it's somewhat annoying that way that, it's taking time away from, what we should be doing to build a sport. And on a personal note, as some of you know, I was going to go to the AW5 in Houston in November, and my plans are, or were, probably still are, we'll see, to take 2 weeks and drive down just like I drove all over the South and Midwest last summer, and basically drive to Houston, drive back, hit some practices along the way. And I just wanted to visit. I just wanted to meet some of these people on the chat that I've never met in person. Well, then that didn't happen. They couldn't stand still for that. No, I had to have a couple of matches. And so now I actually have 3 matches at this super match thing, AW5, one with Damon Ransom, which is somewhat ridiculous since I weigh twice as much as he does. One with David Kotlow and one with Matthew Ninja Lefevre, who we've met, who's from Ohio and is going to be doing commentary. And as I've told the chat today, I'm getting a good bit of heat from people I respect ask me, why am I lending my name and my face to this bunch of whack jobs down there? So, and I've told them today, I said, if this continues, hey, I'm sorry, apologies. You've already posted a couple of the matches. Hey, Ninja lives in Ohio. Damon lives in DC. I'm 4 hours from Damon, 6 or 7 hours from Ninja. They want to have a match. I can have it up here. I don't have to have it down there. But I really did want to go to meet people. And they're making it rather difficult. Like I say, maybe that's in the whole scheme of things, that's my personal, personal dilemma, but it's there. maybe it's minor in the overall scheme of things, which is that, if I go there, am I going to be suggesting to people that 98, which does not approve of such crap, does? I don't know. Whatever. But it's just very frustrating, annoying. Because I think, I've traveled around enough that I think most people know me, and Ryan's certainly been online often enough that people know him, that this is not something that we would support.
Yeah. Anyway, it sucks that we have to do a little podcast like this, but every now and then we have to do some damage control. But yeah, Wood's going crazy, dude. He went too far with his language. And really, if you think about how many people go into the AWU chat, even though if they may be in there not paying attention, or they might come in and leave, and people notice that language. He's going crazy with the N-word, and
they have dozens of people.
It rubs off on anybody else that's in there, and it really makes the whole sport look bad. So I don't know what the fuck he's thinking, but not good, Wood.
Yeah, in fact, it's kind of interesting here. I'm just once again looking at the chat that Lucia said, STFU, that gets me every time. I presume, although I could be wrong here, although correct me if I'm wrong, that he's referring to the time where I was basically, saying that in rather loud tones to Nanya on one podcast some months ago. But as we said today, Nanya isn't even in the top top three as far as craziness anymore.
No.
He was on the podcast this afternoon. He was one of the normal ones.
That's a lot. That's saying a lot.
Yeah, when he drops it, he's dropped. Nanya's dropped out of the top three for now. Once again, I think Steve is there temporarily, but at the moment, as I said, Steve is, even though it may not totally be his fault, Steve is major league. Wood is AAA, and Eric Harlan, I think, is AA, and Nanya's in fourth place. So, yeah, whatever.
Well, I think Wood too sees someone crazier than him and feels like he has to out crazy that person. I'm like, dude, you're trying way too hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. But anyway, so
yeah,
we certainly don't need to go on with this for hours on end.
Yeah.
In fact, if we stay on much longer, we'll be stepping on Paul Italia's podcast that starts at 9:30 Eastern, which is 10 minutes from now.
Yeah.
And then Ryan.
Yeah. So, I'm going to watch that podcast, see what's going on with that. Knuckles Up is going to be on there. Our quick announcement, our domestic disturbance tournament in November 9th. We got some belts, 2 belts to release into the weight classes. So first place in 2 of the weight classes that we choose, we're going to release these belts. And then moving forward, anybody in those weight classes that wins first, second, or third has the opportunity to challenge for the belt at one of our next events in some sort of challenge match. So eventually we're going to have belts released in all the pro classes, all the pro weight classes, right and left hand. So we're just going to release a belt or 2 every tournament until all of them are released. And then organically that will create some fun challenge matches, because only first, second, or third in that weight class can challenge for the belt. So that'll be kind of fun.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned that event, Ryan, because another thing that I could have mentioned that I should be working on instead of dealing with this nonsense is we are going to have some super matches at that event.
Yep.
We have asked people who would like to have one, and we're in the process of seeing who we can link up and who we can match up for that.
So if you're going to that tournament and you're interested in a in a challenge match, let us know, because we might be able to line you up with someone on the list and get that all situated. That should be fun. Another fun thing. And then after that, it's 100% focus, Winter Blast. That's what we got a badass venue. So make sure, if you're coming to Winter Blast, get out there, get out there and get your hotels. We posted the link, or make your plans, or put going on the event page so that we know roughly how many people are going to come out. Keith Hahn is looking for old shrimp golem.
Yeah, in fact, Ryan, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm not sure if Ryan wants me to do this, but hey, I can go out on a limb occasionally.
Can the limb hold your weight?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, mine, but not yours. But boy, how's that for a shot? Now, what I wanted to do is, like I say, we had asked pullers if they would like super matches, and what I was going to do is just read the names of those who suggested they might be interested.
Oh yeah.
And so if you, and on some cases, people said, oh, gee, I know a person would be good for them. Now, I'm not going to go through that. But those who indicated that they might like a super match at the event are Logan Bittinger, John Brownell, Bo Horner, Bryce Meadows, Tim Lewis, Michael Hawks, Lids Lucky Wood, Mike Gower, Caleb Gunnell, Aidan LeMay, Ray Romanowski, Ed DeCruz, otherwise known as Ed Texera, Warren Raber, Chris Vert, Jeremiah Wolf, Josiah Janelle. Did I say him already? No, Caleb and Josiah. Jimmy Fuller, Nathan Middlebrooks, Adam Sekeli, Alan Vaughn, and Brandon Baggett. So, or if I apologize if I've mispronounced any of those, but those are the names of people that basically were suggested. So if you've heard one of those names,
Yak said he might be interested in a super match. It's in November in what's that?
November 9th.
Salem?
Yeah, Bensalem.
November 9th, Bensalem, PA, which is a little further north than Philly, sort of.
And it's a week after the AWU, which is why I, like I say, I have to go charging home to. Originally that week was going to be just super matches, but then we moved the October 5th tournament to that, and so we're having both the super matches and a tournament. So I have to come charging home from AWU, assuming it becomes normal enough that I can go to it to get back. Back to that, get back and here by Friday.
I think we should set a goal to go a full year with no cock and balls, no taints, no buttholes, no areolas for a whole year. See if we can do that.
Yeah, especially since we never did manage to get Gold Bond as a sponsor.
Keith said he's always down for a super heavy match.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will add Keith Limbach to the list that I have to my handy dandy little spreadsheet here. But
now, just because we don't want to see some areolas in the show doesn't mean we can't talk about them, because Dave Shell's 15/16 areolas are legendary.
Yeah, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just typing. But yeah, and in fact, also if you have hearing those names, you say, "Oh, gee, I heard you mention, so and so." I think a person that would be an excellent, match for that person. What I have is two other columns where they were sort of labeled self-suggested opponent, where a handful of people said to me, "Gee, I might like to pull so and so," and I have others suggested opponent when people said, "Oh, why don't you match so and so with so and so?" And I'm not going to read through those, but once again, if you heard one of those names and want to make a suggestion, be glad to hear it. In the meantime, however, it's now 9:27 Eastern Daylight. Do we want to wrap this up, Brian, so you can watch and see what Paul is up to? Or
Yeah, come to Winter Blast, buddy. That's the one to go to. It's going to be crazy this year.
So we will set a new record today, 2 new records. Number one, first time we had 2 podcasts on the same day. And the second record is the first one we've ever had that lasted less than 30 minutes. Well, actually, it lasted, no, we're up to 30 minutes and 33 seconds at the moment.
And no cock and balls or taint or buttholes on this episode.
Well, we've had that. We've been lucky enough to have that before, but, the other 2 are, unique.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, this particular episode, there was 0 nudity.
indeed.
That's a step in the right direction, I think.
A very big step in the right direction because nobody wants to see either of us nude. Thank you.
Are you sure about that?
Mhm.
I don't know, dude. You should leave that up to the crowd because maybe some of them want to see you, Dave.
Yeah, well, I know I was thinking about you, but
Well,
whatever.
no one wants to see me. But you, on the other hand, you have famous areolas.
Yeah. Mhm.
No houses got burned down. No boats. Yeah, good call. Good call, Keith. I mean, that's tough to have 2 arsonists on the show at the same time. 2 known arsons.
Yeah. Oh, and well, if people don't understand the reference there, several of the charges that Golub had from some years back were arson.
Captain, you definitely missed the first, dude. Full on frontal nudity, full death threats with weapons. It was crazy. Crazy.
Ryan, it's 9:29. Let's wrap it up.
I'm waiting on you, dude. I mean, Jesus, Dave. So rude.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I've said all I need to say.
Anyway, this was fun. This was just to do a little I don't know, damage control on what happened earlier. So there will definitely be cock and balls and assholes at Winter Blast. So go there for sure. Anyway, good night, everybody. Go watch the Paul Italia podcast. Peace.